I'm going to sound repetitive, but this is a 4th level spell slot, which means that elementals are on the same level as aberrations, and I think that's wrong.
I think that is baloney.
Yeah.
Yeah, more like on the same level, if not lower to me as like, oh wait, the Celestial's way higher. As like the Beast. I had to look it up again. Yeah, Beast is 2nd level. Or Elemental goes up to 4th level. Like, that's skipping a whole level. Like, you might as well have that be, and then Face Spirit, as we'll see soon, is 3rd level. So you might as well have it at 3rd level as well, because like you said, it should be dependent on basically the range from the material plane. That's how dangerous something should be.
Yeah.
Like, where you normally find it, it should increase the further away you get, which actually is an idea in some Gnostic philosophies and religions in the real world, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, if I was the DM and I was using these spells in my games, I would probably move them around a bit just to make it seem cooler, to be honest.
I mean, I could see, like, beasts would be, I think, the closest because they're in the material plane. Undead, because you're stretching the brand of life, but the components you're working on, the materials, are usually material plane. And then elementals, because you're surrounded by the elemental chaos. And then, like, celestial and fiends, and then aberrations. Like, aberrations should be the top. Celestials and fiends would be the same level, in my opinion. And then elemental, undead, beast. And it's like, that's the stratification that I could see. And that's just based on knowledge, like the access of knowledge. Beasts, undead, elementals, like, that's still material plane idea. They're the closest to what we know today. And then celestials and fiends should be at the same level, and aberrations are out there.
Yeah.
It seems like the entire system of levels as we go through this are just weird. And then we have Fae, and Fae is Feywild. And undead would be Shadowfell, basically. I mean, you're kind of drawing from those areas. So undead would be at the same level as Fae, which might be actually correct, looking at this. Again, I think as we continue through this, we've already expressed the levels are wonky in terms of how you would approach this. And as I'm putting together Ionian lore and putting together, like, a huge document of the reference document of everything in Io, especially the 6th Age, I might even put reference into this UA that says, hey, for these summoning spells, these are the levels you actually get them, and this is why. And just adjust the level system just to reflect that. I might also have to change their power levels if that's what I do, though, because you do get certain boons depending on the levels that you casting these at.
This would also be a really cool thing to do what we were talking about with the beast, where you have, like, a familiar almost. I know that elementals are much more neutral and they don't, like, really, stick to people as much as, like, beasts or, for example, Fae do. Well, but it would still be pretty interesting to have like a little flame, for example, if you have a fire elemental that just kind of follows you around, and it's just like, well, you know what it's like? It's like Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. Very much like that. Yeah.
In my Feywild campaign, I have a character that has a little ember critter that's attached to her horns on her tiefling character. And we've discovered that this thing, the Feywild is full of primal spirits and it's full of elemental spirits. And this is just a little guy that he wakes up. You have to, like, cast fire on him, and he wakes up and he'll do stuff. But as he grows throughout the campaign and they get stronger and he gets stronger, I think now seeing the spell in action, he might be able to become this elemental spirit. So he's hanging out on her head, and when she wants him to, fight or do something cool, she could cast this spell, and he would then manifest into battle form. He would digivolve, and then you go fight, and then he would go back to the little form that hangs out on her horns. And that would be another cool way to also bring it into play through the Ionian Feywild, but also to test out this stuff and make a story reason why it would exist.
Absolutely.
Cool.
No, that sounds that just makes me want to play in the Feywild game someday, because as we all know, I love the Fey. I just love the themes and everything. Oh
Ian,
my gosh.
you want to read this next one because you love the Fae so much?
Yes, I do. All right, so this next one is...
I was gonna say, Ian brought up an excellent story thing, which is what happens if the Fae aren't talking to you. This is the first one we're talking about where you're kind of on the same, you can reasonably travel to the same plane as the thing you're summoning. So I just imagine there's all these little Santa elves that are like only speaking Sylvan and they won't speak to you. So you try to use summon Fae Spirit and it just pops one of them out of their group and next to you, and it has to be friendly to you, but it's like, so you pick Joy,
man!
but now it can translate for you and you're just like, all right, tell them what we want. Like,
yeah. No, absolutely.
You have to come from somewhere. You're summoning them.
Yeah.
So what if you're on the same plane that you're summoning them from? They just pop over to your side.
Yeah, it's not create Fae, like produce flame or create water. You're literally just dragging them over. Not even just summoning them. I could just imagine like you pointing at one and being like, that one, and it just drags them to you.
Oh. Yeah, that's what I was
just like,
thinking.
No,
wait. Oh man. Okay, so anyway.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I also like the so that's hilarious. First and foremost, Feywild team, try it. It'll be hilarious. And won't come back to bite you ever. Now, because how do they feel when you just I deputize you, and you now need to work for me?
Well, and I think we've talked about it before. The conjure spells are the same way. Like when you conjure woodland beings, you're conjuring Fae spirits that take the shape of an animal. So like one of my friends who also ran Tomb of Annihilation, he had one of his players do conjure woodland spirits so he could summon like 8 gorillas and he used it as trap fodder. So he would just say, "You gorilla, go step on that landmine." So he was basically just conjuring these Fae spirits to have them die for him so he wouldn't have to deal with it's like, how did the Fae look at you now? Like, so they ended up, this character became a demigod in Fae lore of like a creature of pointless destruction, because that's how they would imagine you get plucked into another plane of existence, told magically that you have to go run on a landmine and blow up, and then you pop back into the real world like nothing happened. Like you
But, oh my gosh. And like I like that, but I also like the idea of the Fae taking revenge on whoever summoned them. So like at the end of the Tomb of Annihilation, assuming that character survives, they just like at the end there's a portal just opens up next to them and they get grabbed like by like several tiny hands and just dragged into it, and then they're never seen again because they got taken into
it's all the little
wild.
dryads that you summoned millions of times and just, all right, buddy, your turn. You know?
Yeah.
We've made an elaborate Ninja Warrior course of death for you to run for our amusement. Go.
Yeah.
That would be a really fun little one-shot, actually.
Thank you so much for listening to some of our podcast highlights. This podcast is part of the Darkmoor Podcast Network. If you want to support the content creators, feel free to visit our Patreon. And please, game responsibly.